And welcome to Pulp Mythos. I'm Brian here with Larry and Spencer, and we're going to be discussing the first two episodes of The Righteous Gemstones season number 2. If you've not been on the channel before, check out some of the other content. Leave a like, leave a comment, hit that sub button, and we plan on doing the entire series. So basically, we get on here, we tell you what we thought about the episode, any theories we have about what's coming up, and full spoilers. So if you don't want to be spoiled, stop listening. So here we go. I'm going to jump in at the end of the second episode, and then we'll work our way back because that's sort of clearly the twist, not twist, but the mystery of the season. It appears basically the murder of this journalist who was trying to damage or take down the Gemstone family. So yeah, we get to that end scene. We find out this journalist, he pursues particularly mega church leaders, digs up dirt on them, sort of takes them down. He says that he has dirt on the Gemstone family, specifically Aimee-Leigh, which I thought was interesting, and we'll get into that. But the Eli's 3 kids decide they're going to go talk to this reporter. They go, he's dead. There's other bodies there. It's a crazy crime scene. Of course, they touch every fucking thing, so falling in the blood. So that's going to be interesting to see how they get away from, evidence being put there. But they end up leaving, and then their father, Eli, comes in covered in blood himself and clearly hiding something. Who killed the reporter? Who knows what's going on? A lot of moving pieces going back in terms of Eli's long lost friend Junior coming into the picture, other things as well. But just the initial setup itself. What are your guys' thoughts? And how did you feel about the first 2 episodes?
I love Jason Schwartzman.
Yeah, same here. So much so that I thought he was going to play a much bigger role in this season than he apparently will, at least if that's his corpse next to that car. It
was him in the kitchen.
It was him in the kitchen? That was him
with the bullet head in his head.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That's another question. Who the hell are those 2 corpses?
I think one was in a uniform, like a cop, and that looked like an old, unmarked Crown Vic. So, which isn't better. Like, because it looked like a badge on the left chest of the guy who looked like his face got hit with a shotgun or a frying pan that was hot. Like, I don't know. Like, his whole face was
gun.
Yeah.
Grenade launcher.
Yeah, I can't wait until because I imagine we'll flash back to that scene.
But we better.
and see what happens, because that looks like that was intense, Like, and like you said, there's so many questions about who was involved. Like, I feel like Junior was definitely involved, but, how did this happen? And why are there so many people dead? And like, if he was just trying to help out, Eli, then why are so many people dead and not just the reporter?
Just based off of looking at it, this is what I drew as far as conclusion wise from what happened, is that Junior showed up with his crew of Memphis people that, Larry alluded to it while we were talking off air, but he mentioned in the first episode that he knows a whole bunch of essentially killers. He knows a whole bunch of really bad people down in Memphis, and that big burly dude was nothing compared to them. He was like, I will come to your house and fucking kill you. So it's when he shows up, well, this is what I'm assuming. This has not been confirmed or anything, but when Junior shows up with his people and kills Schwartzman, the cops were on their way because they were probably talking shit to him. They were probably doing something, or probably sitting outside yelling at him. So he called the cops. So they shoot him in the head. The cops are outside, and the shots that hit the mirror and the picture and stuff were coming from the cops from outside. And then I don't know if they shot a fucking bazooka, like an RPG or something that hit the ground by them or what, but that would actually make more sense too if it was some kind of like explosive device, because for the one guy to be in a tree and the other guy to be missing like half of his,
and the crater in the car. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's one of those things where I feel like we have to get this from Schwartzman's angle because, like you said, they cast freaking Jason Schwartzman for this. We're definitely gonna get some flashbacks with this guy, and whatever he dug up about Aimee-Leigh must be something big. I'm assuming, and possibly true. I imagine that's going to be one of the bigger revelations later in the season.
We spend the entire first season really sort of saying that she was the one sort of good person in the family. She was better than all, and her passing was destructive and it hurt everyone. This season we get the flashback of Eli, and we see in his past that he was like this. He was a wrestler, but he was also somewhat of an enforcer for this criminal operation. That's how we knew Junior. And it's interesting because you're right. Maybe there was more to Aimee-Leigh than we were told in the first season, and maybe there was something him and her were up to. Maybe there's things he is trying to hide. Junior mentions offhand that people think he killed his father. Is that something that Eli knows something about? What else did Eli do? What else was he involved with in earlier in his life, and how does it relate to Aimee-Leigh, and how could that potentially tie into this crazy murder and battle that essentially took place at the end?
Well, I was trying to look at the newspaper article that Jason Schwartzman was looking at, and it was an old article with Eli, and it was like, was it Eli Gemstone indictment or something? I'm trying to remember exactly what it said, but it looked like an old picture. So when you talk about Junior's dad dying, was he basically on the hook for that? Was able to get off of it? Was able to kind of shift the blame to somebody else because by that time maybe he was up and coming as far as the church, or maybe Amy was the one that helped him cover it up. There's a lot of things that I think with Junior's dad dying is going to be revealed later throughout this season too.
The other major plot that's taking place, and I was also wondering if this could tie into, maybe not, but was so streaming. So they're getting involved in streaming. They have this it's called God.
Dude.
Yeah, that was great. Gemstones on digital demand. And so basically, there's a lot of money being made. There's other entities that are involved, other churches, and that was sort of the beginning of the episode, showed how one of these preachers was being taken down by the reporter. But another group that's sort of trying to get tied in with the Gemstones is the Listens. And the head of that crew is played by Eric Andre, which I was very happy to see him in the trailer. What's the name of that movie he just came out with earlier last?
God.
Yeah, we watched that.
We watched, and it was like Jackass, but funnier.
It's so good. It's amazing.
Tiffany Haddish was in it, and so was
yes.
God, Hannibal Buress was in it, and so was what Lil Ray, I think.
Can't remember. Really good movie though. Yeah. But so basically they're trying to start they want a timeshare, a Christian-based timeshare, this resort, and they need the Gemstones to be involved. And so they basically get Jesse to and his wife, they need $10 million. And if something feels off about it, like it's BS, but would they just rip them off? I don't know. And then I was also thinking, does the streaming stuff, does sort of that little venture, or could that tie into the reporter stuff? Could it all connect, or is it a completely separate storyline? What are your thoughts on the Listens?
Yeah, they seem like, it seems to me like there was a lot of talk about money and investments and everything, but like, unless I missed something, I noticed that the only people that didn't say how much that they were putting in or how much was required by them were the Listens themselves. They're requesting $10 million from one of the Jonas brothers.
Joe Jonas. That was great.
Right? Yeah. And from Jesse and his wife. But, we don't know how much money the Listens are actually putting in this. And my guess would be none. That maybe even perhaps they didn't even take the reins from his father like they said they did, because they were talking up to Jesse like, okay, yeah, We took the reins from, Eric Andre's character, from his father, and now we're in charge. I feel like that's not the case. Like they're running a con, and like they perhaps don't even have his permission to do this.
I stopped laughing. Every time Eric Andre came on, we talk about this whole show is kind of centered around mega churches and the kind of the hypocrisy about, even Jason Schwartzman says it at the beginning, the hypocrisy about the mega churches. And I could not stop laughing when Eric Andre was like, he pulled those people over the balcony when he was, I don't even know what that's called. Where it's like spreading the.
Oh yeah, he's hitting him with the Holy Spirit and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. He's just like throwing it out, and he's like knocking them over, and pulled them off the balcony, and then grabbed a guitar and started like blasting a solo. Like his character, everything he did, I think it did such a good job of distracting me that I spent less time trying to figure out why he's as big a piece of shit as he is, because I was too busy laughing the whole time. And then towards the middle of the second episode, and we talked about this off screen a little bit. So then, so I figured out a little bit. So we have this, it's called the One Voice, the choir. That is legit. I just looked it up. If I'm not mistaken, I hear it wrong. That's an actual kids choir. And they actually cover that song that they sang in the middle, which was it One More Light or One Last Light by Linkin Park? Like, that is actually a cover that choir does. And I lost my shit. Like, as soon as I heard it start, and I was like, this sounds really familiar. And I started laughing, and I had the subtitles up, and it just said Linkin Park. And I just could not stop laughing. So upon my second watching, I was able to kind of catch some of the Jesse, them negotiating how to get their 10 million part. But the first viewing, I didn't hear it at all. Like, I was too busy laughing.
The Kelvin and Keith stuff. It's interesting because he's, he was really into the sort of youth, the youth pastor stuff in the first season. I just was remembering some of those scenes. But him and Keith, they formed this sort of bodybuilding, which was a big deal, especially in the '90s. If anybody remembers, sort of the God Squad thing, and he formed this crew, and I kept thinking, I was like, they're gonna play a role later in the season, I bet, because whatever the hell went down at that shootout, like they're going to possibly need an actual army. And so I was thinking that especially at the end of the second episode, I was like, oh, they're gonna play a role. There's gonna be an actual battle of some kind, I bet. And he literally has an army. So what do you think's gonna, they teased a little bit, him and Keith, Keith's still trying to figure himself out, and I guess purpose, and so I'm curious to how that's going to play out. They were talking about, where are you going to eat, and he's like, no, you got to go eat with the squad. I'm going to eat with the family. And so anyways, just they didn't have a whole lot of scenes, but his role so far in the first two episodes.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because I did think it was hilarious that he's got his own power team now and everything, and like, if you remember them from back in the day, like, but
I do.
Yeah. Like, I feel like they're gonna attempt to do what you're saying, but given that this is Danny McBride and something he's working on, I feel like those big tough guys are gonna get punked out or are gonna get killed off early on, and I feel like it's gonna be up to like maybe a combination of like Baby Billy and Gideon to save the day.
Hope so.
Yeah,
Dude,
because
when Buff Jesus walked out, like, all the guys were, bigger guys, and then when the like 6'8" Jesus walked out the back, I couldn't. That was great.
Yeah, I was cracking up at Swole Jesus too.
I just love that they roll everywhere with them. Like that was the best part. Like, you notice, like, no matter where they go, their little crew rolls. They have their own little section in the church.
Did you also notice that their vans block anybody else from entering
Yeah.
The way they pulled him up, they didn't like just park shitty. They literally blocked the rest of the parking lot from being entered at all.
You mentioned Gideon. You know, Gideon was arguably one of the co-leads in the season one. He was a major character, very important to the conflict of the season. This season, you know, he's back with his family. You know, he's found his role as far as the family business. He's enjoying the production side, and you know, there's even the funny line where you know Jesse's like, "You're gonna preach, right?" You know, he's just like, you know, he's not. He doesn't want to be a preacher, but he's enjoying the production stuff. You know, he wanted to go to Hollywood. He wanted to be an actor and everything. So, you know, he's found his groove. But where you know he's a smart guy. Like I said, a lot of stuff went down in season one. Where do you think his role is going to go in terms of season two? If he starts learning things, especially if he figures out what's going on, you know, he's going to want to get involved in some way, I'm sure, and help out. So do you think Gideon's going to be a sideline this season, or do you think he's going to have a bigger role as it progresses?
I think he's going to end up being, because you looked at what Kelvin when he ran back to the Tesla at the end of episode 2, and kept asking him if he was going to wuss out. And they're like, "You can go sit in a what'd you say? You can go sit in a car and squeeze your butthole or whatever." But it was. I feel like he is going to take a shift in character, and he's going to start focusing on Keith and his muscle men, and Gideon is going to kind of be Jesse's go-to person. And I think that's what's going to end up happening. Is that's how they're going to bring him into the fold? Is they're going to accidentally incorporate him into something illegal, and then he's going to have to figure out how to get them out of it, help get them out of it.
I feel like he's gonna be forced to take a bigger role potentially due to, you know, the scandal of all the things that's happening right now. Like I feel like Eli, like there's been a lot of talk about Eli taking a backseat and everything, and Jesse trying to push Eli out so he can be in charge of the company. I think unwillingly, you know, I think he's going to have to, but I think unwillingly. I think there'll be enough scandal and that what happened to the other preacher that tried to jump off the balcony. You know, it's sort of a foreshadowing of how vulnerable even Eli is in this situation. And, you know, so there's going to need to be more members of the Gemstone family actually stepping up. And I think that person will be Gideon.
I think it'll be Baby Billy.
I think, yeah, I think so too. I think Baby Billy will definitely involve himself heavily.
I definitely, though, could see Jesse bringing Gideon as sort of his right hand. You know, I could definitely see that. Him looking at him like, yeah, we you know, I need you to have my back, and you know, I trust, you know, he trusts him.
Right. Yeah, and Gideon's the one person he seems to trust more than anybody at this point. And so, yeah, who better to have by his side? Whether Gideon really wants to or not, he may just do that for his family.
Judy married BJ. You know, they were together all season one. A lot of comedy between the two in these first two episodes, and she was there when they discovered the reporter dead, and you know it was her Tesla, and so there was a lot of gags. But in the previews, so BJ he wants to get more involved in the family, and so he you know he wants to get baptized, and you know they show that at least the way it came off to me in the previews for the season, they go to Baby Billy. And so it looks as if, and remember, he was trying to really connect with her in the season one. He wanted her to sort of take on the role that Aimee-Leigh had, and so I'm curious if they're going to continue that story a little bit, where the Judy, but now BJ story is going to sort of tie into Baby Billy. I think he maybe look at them as an in to the empire, but his church looks pretty legit. As far as the trailer was concerned, like he's built up his brand again.
Well, and I also think when you look back at the controversy and everything that they're supposedly finding with Aimee-Leigh, is that he was tightly wound into all that as well. So whatever it was with Aimee-Leigh that they found could be directed towards Baby Billy also.
That's a good point.
Yep.
But Judy, the entire episode, dude, her awkward kind of like laugh and
She's so good at being awkward.
Everybody.
Yeah.
And we talked about it right beforehand when she was talking to her dad and I thought that if you were going to start yanking someone's pole, it would be someone cuter like Patrick Stewart or something. And I could not stop fucking giggling.
Judy is just such a mess in this show. Like, and just the, I don't know, BJ is just hilarious. Like, you know, unlike you two, I literally just watched the entirety of season 1, and those two are definitely two favorite characters of mine. Like, anytime BJ's on screen, I'm laughing. You know, it's just,
Dude, the fact that they went, it was his dream. They went to Disney to have a Disney wedding, and they had
right?
Prince Eric preside over the wedding. Like that,
Just-
that whole scene was just comedy gold.
I don't want to talk about your mermaid wedding.
Yeah.
Just little things like that. They're just so weird. Like, both of them.
He reminds me of Ned Flanders for whatever reason. BJ does. Like every time I see him in a scene, like the way he stands and moves and the way he talks, the very odd vernacular he uses, dude, all I can think of is fucking Ned Flanders.
He's like Ned Flanders if Ned Flanders wasn't self-aware at all. Like he never seems to know what's going on in the moment or how he's being perceived.
Yeah, you know, they gave us 2 episodes, which it made complete sense in this case because the episode 1 was the setup and episode 2 was the, you know, setting up the mystery, if you will, of what the season's really about. Yeah, like I said, I'm on board, very excited. It's getting positive buzz, you know, as far as these first 2 episodes. Season 1, you know, has a fan base. Danny McBride, you know, has his HBO following. Any other thing you want to talk about regarding these 2 episodes?
The only thing that I wanted to say is that I'd noticed on IMDb they already had episode 1 of season 3 announced, which means that more than likely it's already got picked up for a 3rd season. So that's exciting.
Well, and I just want to say I'm just glad to see that this season, much like all of last season, Chad is still getting his.
Yeah, we talked about Chad so hard before we started recording. Like he's that character. He's like Stevie. Anybody who watched Eastbound, that just gets that Danny McBride, you can tell, just enjoys torturing as a character.
Like Chad is still getting the short end of the stick, and they're still crapping on BJ. I was a little worried they might pull that back since, you know, his whole plot line last season was, you know, getting self-confidence, but, you know, they're still crapping on BJ. Chad's still getting it. You know, I'm just like, Chad is definitely another one of my favorite characters just because of, like you said, how much Danny McBride loves crapping on that guy.
But yeah, solid 2 episodes. Very excited for the next. Anything else?
No, sir.
The way you said that was no, sir.
You just finished watching 1883?
I was trying to pull out some Walter Goggins.
Some Goggins, boy. Like, I don't give a fuck about them ducks. All right. Yeah, thanks for listening. Like I said, we'll be reviewing this show every single week, and